All right, what's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing well. Well, news came out yesterday. Dillian Whyte taking legal action against WBC. I'm not going to go into the quotes. I'm not going to really talk about articles that have been written and going and digging in there and hearing quotes from Dillian Whyte, hearing quotes from Mauricio Suleiman, Eddie Hearn, whatever. I'm sure you guys already read them, so I don't want to belabor you with those quotes. But I'm going to give you my take on this whole thing. And it's really disgusting the way Dillian Whyte's been treated, not only by the WBC, but by his promoter, Eddie Hearn. And I know you guys, Beeb hates Eddie Hearn. He's always jumping on Eddie Hearn. Well, Eddie Hearn gives me a lot of ammunition to use against him. Now, do I hate him? Absolutely not. But he's made a lot of questionable moves, said a lot of questionable things in the sport of boxing, constantly contradicts himself. He's a big hypocrite. And unless your name is Anthony Joshua, I don't think he really pushes hard for his fighters, unlike Bob Arum, unlike PBC. Because if you look back and you see how long Dillian Whyte has been WBC's number one contender, been their mandatory challenger, been their interim champion, been their silver champion. Like, they've done everything in the world, thrown every belt at this guy's lap to pacify him, except give him the belt that he really wants and at least a shot at the belt that he really deserves, which is a WBC heavyweight title. And then you sit there and say, well, what could Eddie Hearn do? It's the WBC's fault. Well, that's bullshit, and I'll tell you why. Because how do guys like Romain Stavern, Dominic Breazeale, how do they become mandatory challengers after Dominic Breazeale lost to Anthony Joshua in his only other title shot, had some rough, shaky fights after that, and automatically he becomes the mandatory over Dillian Whyte, who was actually ranked number one. How does he bypass Dillian Whyte? How does Romain Stavern bypass Dillian Whyte after being out of the ring for almost 2 years and then automatically just comes back into the mix and coming off a fight where he looked really suspect? You can argue that he lost that fight. How does that happen? And how does Luis Ortiz get a rematch against Deontay Wilder after losing the first fight? And how does he even get the first fight with all the controversy surrounding him with the failed PED test in the past? So all these guys, no way near can you argue that they're more deserving than Dillian Whyte. But what is the difference, though? What's the big difference here? All those guys are PBC fighters. So you could say what you want about PBC, but they take care of their fighters. They push to get their fighters marketable fights. They push to put their fighters in advantageous positions. They push to get their fighters title shots. But unless your name is Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn does not push for you if you are a matchroom fighter. How come Callum Smith hasn't got a shot at Canelo Alvarez yet? You mean to tell me that he doesn't deserve a shot at Canelo Alvarez to get a big money fight like that? Why hasn't Eddie Hearn pushed for that with all of his influence? And then furthermore, the big slap in the face is Eddie Hearn is already talking about a unification fight, not one, but two, with Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua. So Dillian Whyte was never able to get a title shot against Anthony Joshua. Now, how does that not happen? You got a promoter who works with both fighters, okay? You got a guy in Dillian Whyte who was ranked number one by the WBO for a great period of time as well. But then the WBO has this stupid rule where a champion in another division, if they move up, they automatically become the number one contender. I mean, It just doesn't get any more stupid than that. So this guy, Dillian Whyte, has been screwed over, and he's taking legal action against WBC, as everyone knows, as they heard the news yesterday. The WBC is no stranger to having legal action taken against them. They were almost bankrupt against Graziano Raccagiani many, many years ago, and they had to settle out with Raccagiani. So this must be serious right now because Mauricio Sulaiman, excuse me. Jose Sulaiman, may he rest in peace. I always get them mixed up for whatever reason, their names. But Mauricio Sulaiman was asked about this. He confirmed it, but he really couldn't go into specifics. So this must be some serious business. If his legal team and his legal advisors are telling him he can't talk about it, and this looks like it's going to go to litigation. Now, here's the thing. Now, the WBC has said, well, Tyson Fury has to fight Dillian Whyte by February. But yet, you have Bob Arum coming out there in the press saying, well, we're talking to the sanctioning bodies to try to circumvent these mandatories. So Mauricio Sulaiman hasn't given Dillian Whyte an infinite date, a confirmed date. And he's lied to Dillian Whyte before. He's made Dillian Whyte promises before, just making very vague statements like, but February, without giving him a date. So given the empirical data here and the circumstantial evidence and the history, Dillian Whyte doesn't trust the WBC. But also he shouldn't really trust his promoter, because how are all these other guys, like how did Kubrat Pulev is going to be able to fight Anthony Joshua, he's a mandatory challenger. He refuses to step aside. These guys like Bob Arum pushed for Kubrat Pulev hard to get that shot. He worked hard to get him that shot. Okay? PBC, all their fighters, they get title shots. This doesn't happen with other promoters, with other entities in the sport of boxing. Okay? PBC pushes their fighters and does right by their fighters. Bob Arum, for the most part, does right by his fighters as well, too. Look what he did for Tyson Fury. And Bob Arum's got some influence with the WBO, as Frank Warren does. And Frank Warren made a statement. He said, if I was promoting Dillian Whyte, he probably would have a title shot by now, or most certainly would have a title shot by now. I believe him. I believe him. But Eddie Hearn, unless your name is Anthony Joshua, he does not care about you. The biggest slap in the face, as I said earlier, was already talking about trying to seal up a 2-fight deal with Tyson Fury for unification, while Dillian Whyte is the mandatory. Why isn't he talking about Dillian Whyte's fight? Why is he talking about other fights other than Dillian Whyte? It's a disservice to Dillian Whyte for his promoter to not be advocating for him hard, like Bob Arum and PBC do for their fighters. So all you have to do, the proof is in the pudding. Just look at the behavior. Look at the empirical data. Frank Warren, I believe Frank Warren, because Frank Warren has a great relationship with the WBC. He has a great relationship with the WBO. He's been around for a long time, and his fighters never have a hard time getting their title shots. So Kubrat Pulev is the mandatory. He's not stepping aside. Now they're talking about Alexander Usyk. He's complaining now too, another Eddie Hearn fighter, saying, well, I'm the mandatory for the WBO, and you're just going to bypass me and go to that Fury unification fight? That's another matchroom fighter. So if you're a matchroom fighter, you got to really look at the situation here. Look at the behavior of Eddie Hearn. You have to ask yourself, does my promoter have my best interest at heart? Sure as hell has Anthony Joshua's best interest at heart. Sure as hell has his own interest at heart. Loves to go out and grab headlines and be in front of the camera. Cares more about himself and Anthony Joshua than he does the rest of the Matchroom stable. So you really have to question this behavior, and you really have to look at the situation. Beavis hella bias. Hearn doesn't care about other fighters, yet he secured Loma versus Campbell, Brook versus Golovkin, but he doesn't push hard. First of all, we're talking about the heavyweight division. We're talking about marquee fighters. It really wasn't like, was that really doing Brook a favor by giving him the Golovkin fight? He actually tried to talk Brook out of the Golovkin fight. Okay? He actually tried to talk Brook out of the Golovkin fight, so you don't know what you're talking about. Once again, talking out of your butthole, not doing the research. And Loma versus Campbell. Was Campbell a mandatory? That was a voluntary fight. And Loma and Arum wanted that fight because they wanted Loma to go to the UK because the fight would have done better over there, which it did do better over there because it was in front of a larger audience. So let's be honest. Let's be honest. So let's just look at the situation. He screwed over Callum Smith. Callum Smith's not happy. Okay? Dillian Whyte's not happy. Billy Joe Saunders is with Hearn now. How come he didn't get that Canelo fight? He's not happy. But he still secured marquee fights, did he not? What do you mean he secured marquee fights? Explain to me what you consider a marquee fight. Rocky Fielding versus Canelo Alvarez, that's a marquee fight. Dillian is on a fight-to-fight basis, that's correct. But since he is on a fight-to-fight basis, that fight-to-fight basis is dealing with one promoter. Shouldn't that promoter be pushing harder for him? How do guys like Dominic Breazeale and Bermane Stiverne and Luis Ortiz get title shots and Dillian Whyte can't? Ask yourself that question. And why is Eddie Hearn talking about a unification fight, screwing over Dillian Whyte and Alexander Usyk? Because Dillian Whyte, if these sanctioning bodies followed their rules, or at least did the right thing, then Dillian Whyte should get the next shot at Fury after Fury beats Deontay Wilder, if he does beat Deontay Wilder. And Usyk, because he's the mandatory, he should get Joshua. And then they can have the unification. But now all of a sudden, Hearn was saying, oh, yeah, we got to fight the mandatories when the Deontay Wilder unification was coming up. He would throw, your issue should be with Hearn. Because why would Hearn screw over his other two fighters? Why would he screw over Dillian Whyte and talk about the unification fight instead of pushing for Dillian Whyte's mandatory? Why would he do that? I got the answer for you, because it's all about money. It's not about doing the right ethical thing. Dillian Whyte's been the number one contender, the mandatory for over 2 years. And then the WBC tries to pacify him by giving him silver titles, interim titles. How come PBC fighters get title shots and matchroom fighters don't? How come? How come when a matchroom fighter is a mandatory, he can't get it? Like, he's a mandatory, and you still can't get him a title shot because it's not that he can't, it's that he doesn't want to. Hearn does not want Dillian Whyte to fight Tyson Fury before Tyson Fury fights Anthony Joshua. That's just a fact. And if you can't see that, you're lying to yourself. And if you don't blame Hearn at all for this, how does Kubrat Pulev get the mandatory? Because Arum pushed for it. Arum pushed hard for it. Don't just blame the WBC. Blame Eddie Hearn. Because Dillian Whyte was also the mandatory for the WBO at one point. He was the mandatory for the WBO at one point. And Joshua and Dillian Whyte are both promoted by Eddie Hearn. And Hearn still couldn't make that fight. And they lowballed him on purpose, gave him a crappy offer that they knew he wasn't going to take. And then they never went back to the table with him. So they have Gerald Miller, who turned down the offer originally, and then they give him a better offer, but they screw over Dillian Whyte. You can't defend Eddie Hearn with this. Eddie Hearn has done a horrible job with Dillian Whyte right now. And Dillian Whyte is a pay-per-view star in the UK. And he's being treated like this. I guarantee you, if Dillian Whyte was a PBC fighter or a top-ranked fighter, he would have his mandatory by now. He would have his title shot by now. Guarantee you that. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. If PBC can get guys Dillian Whyte is number one WBC. Dillian has to take legal action. Why should he have to take legal action? If his promoter did his job, he wouldn't have to do this. He wouldn't have to do this if his promoter did his job. And why isn't his promoter advocating on his behalf? Why does he have to fight for himself? If Eddie's the one screwing over Whyte, why? Because he's not that smart. He was already talking to PBC guys. He was talking to other people. Doesn't matter if you're an independent contractor. If you're being promoted by a promoter, that promoter's job is to advocate for you. Just let's use common sense. But you want to defend. You don't want to be objective. You want to defend somebody. That's fine. You're going to advocate for a promoter. You're going to, once again, you UK fans, put promoters over fighters. Promoters don't take punches. No one goes to a fight to watch a promoter. People go to fights to watch fighters. They watch fighters. Support fighters. Don't support promoters. This is the most ridiculous, stupid era in the sport of boxing when you have guys advocating for promoters and not supporting fighters. The name of the game is called boxing, and boxers box. Promoters don't box, boxers box. Support the fighters. Support the fighters. That's right, JC, fanboys. How could you be a fanboy of a promoter? What intrigues you about a promoter? What makes you excited about a promoter? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. Matchroom have 12 world champions, but Matchroom fighters can't get title shots. Come on, babe. He's done Dillian Whyte bad, but first of all, I'm not sure if he has 12 world champions. I'll back check that. But regardless of that, are those 12 world champions making the money they should be making? That's what you got to ask yourself. That's what you got to ask yourself. Shouldn't have to take legal action. His promoter should have already sold this up for him. His promoter should be doing the legwork for him. He should not have to be doing his own legwork. Should not have to be hiring his own legal team. That is a bad look on the promoter. How come Dominic Breazeale didn't have to take legal action? How come Dominic? Well, I am looking at Suleiman, but how come Eddie Hearn has not had this conversation with Suleiman? How come Bob Arum can deal with Suleiman? How come PBC fighters can deal with Suleiman? How is Dominic Breazeale able to get a title shot? How is Bermain Stavern able to get a title shot after a 2-year layoff? How is Luis Ortiz able to get a title shot after failing a PED test and getting knocked out the first time? He got 2 title shots. Luis Ortiz got 2 title shots. You know why? Because he is a PBC fighter. He is a PBC fighter. Ralph, you keep repeating yourself about independent. You have promoters. Promoters work for you. You don't work for a promoter. A promoter works for you. Marvin Hagler said, Sugar Ray Leonard said, these guys work for me. I don't work for them. These guys get a cut of my purse, so they should be working for me, advocating for me. You have to see that. And if you don't see that, you don't want to see that. You have to be objective. You have to be objective. Did Brazil have to hire a lawyer? Did Brazil have to take legal action against the WBC to get it shot? No, he got it. He got it. A fighter should not have to take legal action to get his title shot. If you can't see that, you don't want to see it. I support fighters. I don't support promoters. Promoters have been doing fighters dirty for years, and Hearn is no exception. Hearn is no exception. Ralph, threatening legal action and actually having to use legal action are two different things. So just if I say I'm going to get a lawyer, but I don't actually go through with the legal proceedings, then it is what it is. It's not the same thing. If I say I'm going to kill you, but I don't kill you, you can't charge me for murder. Words are hollow sometimes unless you act on your words. You go through what you say you're going to do. PBC fighters get treated better than Matchroom fighters. And so do top-ranked fighters. Unless your name is Anthony Joshua, you're not going to get taken care of the way you should. He failed his client. That is 100% MP. He failed his fighter. He screwed his fighter over. Dillian Whyte, I'm going to tweet this video out. You can charge me with threats. That's true. But I'll probably be able to get out of that situation. I have in the past, but that's another story. So if Dillian Whyte, I'm going to at you and I'm going to tweet this video out. I invite you to come on this channel. Come on the Ringside Reporter podcast on Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'd love to interview you, man. I'd love to advocate for you. I'm a Tyson Fury fan. I love Tyson Fury to death. My favorite fighter. My favorite fighter. But he says he doesn't want to fight you. He's wrong. He's wrong. He should fight you. As much as I love Tyson Fury, my favorite fighter, he's my favorite person in boxing. Love the guy. Love the guy. But if he does not fight Dillian Whyte, I don't think he's doing the right thing. Everyone wants to downplay Dillian Whyte. They want to sit there and diminish him. But look at all these other fighters that have gotten title shots before him. He's much better than these other guys that have gotten title shots before him. Okay? And if you look at the Ring magazine, I think they got him ranked. I think I hate doing this during a video, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to look up the WBC. I think they got him ranked number 2. Ring magazine. And I think Boxworks got him ranked number 2 or 3 or something like that. So this is he's universally recognized. He's universally recognized as the top 3. He's in the top 3 best heavyweights right now. But he's not getting treated like that. So I think he's being screwed over. In my opinion. I don't think Eddie Hearn's being a good advocate for him right now. Let's look at the Ring's rankings. I'm curious to see this. Ringtv.com. Let's look at these rankings. I'm curious to see what these rankings are. Let's look at heavyweight. Yeah, Dillian Whyte's ranked number 2 by the Ring magazine. Let's look at BoxRec. Dillian Whyte was ranked number 1 by the WBC. He was their mandatory. He was ranked number 1 by the WBO until they enacted that stupid rule with Alexander Usyk. See what BoxRec has Dillian Whyte. All right, BoxRec has him at 7, so I stand corrected. BoxRec has Andy Ruiz Jr. and Alexander Povetkin and Alexander Usyk ahead of Dillian Whyte, which is ridiculous. So, stand corrected. I stand corrected on the BoxRec statement. I was wrong with that one. But yeah, like again, Dillian Whyte is getting screwed over really bad. He should have a date. He should be guaranteed a shot at the winner of Fury Wilder. Should be guaranteed. So, enough with the eliminators. Enough with the BS. We already know what Mauricio Sulman wants to do. He wants the money fight. He wants the unification fight. Okay? And it's just not the right thing to do. Eddie Hearn, get on your game, bro. You got to step up, man. Should have Ben had secured this guy a title shot, man. So, love Tyson Fury to death, but give this guy a title shot, man. Don't overlook this guy. Do the right thing, man. Do the right thing. You're the best heavyweight in the world, Tyson Fury. I think you'd beat Dillian Whyte. I don't think you'd have much of a problem with him, with all due respect. No disrespect to you, Dillian Whyte. I love Tyson Fury as a fighter. I love his style. I've been saying since 2015, 2014. I've been saying since 2014, even 2013. The last 7 years, I've been saying Tyson Fury is going to be the man. 2014, I said he was the man. Go back. It's on video. But that doesn't mean that, I'm going to not speak the truth. Tyson Fury, if you beat Deontay Wilder, if you beat Tyson Fury, give this guy a title shot, man. He deserves it. Just do the right thing. All right, guys, that's all I got for now. Peace out. Thank you so much. Stay safe, everybody. Continue to support the channel. Continue to watch the Ringside Reporter podcast, 7 p.m. Eastern time every Sunday night with myself and Eric Lauder, and we will have a great day. See you soon. Take care.